All right, what's going on, guys? It is Wednesday. It's 9/11, and hopefully everyone's having a really good Wednesday. I know that, man, August and September, I will start this off by saying, have by far been the slowest months, not only for volatility, but I think for trading opportunities, regardless of your trading style, right? Whether or not you do like trading these ranges or this massive range for Bitcoin, and then also for alts, right? Their steady decline. If you go back at the beginning of 2019, really quick before we get into what I'm going to talk about today, right? Beginning of 2019, going way back to like December through March, this was a pretty amazing period for altcoins. I would say the last time that altcoins were exciting. And then we have April all the way through June, or the end of June to the start of July. Bitcoin volatility was insane, right? Covering a trade or two almost every single day, and just tons of massive swings. And now for August and September, I know that things have slowed down drastically. And that does take a toll, I know, on some traders that are really active, or let's say you had a bad week or a bad month, and you're looking to get it back. All those kinds of things I know are weighing on traders. It weighs on me sometimes it's just, sometimes you wait a full 10 days in August. And imagine if, this setup wouldn't have happened to start September. Sometimes there are just periods where it's going to be like that. And this week so far has been like that as well. It looks like that's slowly changing, and I'm going to talk about why I think for the first time maybe all week, yesterday we were getting closer to a decision point. I think today, I don't know if we can inch any closer, but the setup on Bitcoin, I think I'm actually looking at a setup today. I know that the situation we've talked about all week and really for the past 2 weeks now has been above 10,950. That does not change, right? That continues to be the area where I think Bitcoin would actually start to trend. That'd be a confirmed trend higher if that happens. So for slower moving traders, for investors, nothing changes there. But for the active traders, I would love to wait for that, but I also think that there could be a setup today as well. And I'm going to talk about that. It's very similar to the mindset or to the approach, to kind of the style of this trade, and what I'm looking at here for Bitcoin. And also, I love that this has played out like this, because I think a lot of people in the group, a lot of subscribers, and a lot of you are starting to kind of ascribe to the very be patient, move slow approach for alts. And this worked out perfect for EOS and for Litecoin and for so many of these now, which are being rejected, it looks like, right, at their previous support, turned resistance. And in yesterday's message I sent out in the Coinist Daily, also on Mondays, right, the whole idea was I'm still pretty conservative on alts. And the reason is Litecoin and EOS and all of these, for the time being, so far it's looking like these are turning out to be bearish retests. Right? I know that the crowd, and I know a lot of people in the short term, right, for a day or two this weekend or on Monday, we're all excited about alts, and here's the 10, 15, 20% swing. It's alt season again. That could still happen. But I think it's very valuable waiting for those closes, because we're seeing Litecoin get rejected today and down 3 or 4 or 5%. We're seeing EOS be down 3 or 4 or 5%. I'm seeing Tron. A lot of those coins that I think people got maybe too excited about a little bit too early are all being rejected. And the flip side of that, and why I'm actually interested in looking at a Bitcoin setup today, we've now reset, right? Beginning of the week, this is what we talked about. We've reset, meaning just like at mid-August, right? We hit this resistance, and then price just resets, and we're back to this range kind of chop, if you want to think about it like that. So we start this week, or we end last week as rejection at 10.8, 10.9. We never get our breakout set up. It's frustrating. All it means is you have to wait a couple more days, and definitely have to wait for this breakout play. Now we have totally reset. So we've moved down. Bitcoin has been choppy all week. It's now come down and tested an area right there. I would say there's two big areas in this range where it's pretty attractive to do business. When I say do business, I'm looking for reactions. I'm talking about kind of for the longer term swing plays, things like that. And those two areas are either the range low or the range high, right? Above the range high, I'm going to say this until, it's just drilled into everyone's heads. It helps me as well. I know it's repetitive sometimes, but it just helps me, right? So when we do get above that, that's above the range high. I would think we're trending higher. Or if we touch this range low, right? That's the cheapest Bitcoin's been all of August and all of September. But more than that, right? That's the cheapest Bitcoin's been since June, July, whatever it is. Right? This whole area, this whole support is just an attractive area for Bitcoin to bounce. And what we're seeing since last night, right, Bitcoin was dipping, and It still is pretty low today, but that tap of the range low and now immediate kind of push up, I think is setting up a little bit the first scenario where I'm actually interested in Bitcoin this week. Right? Outside of, this setup hasn't changed. I'm still excited about that, but obviously I don't think we're there yet. So as I look at Bitcoin today, right, there's three areas just to kind of set the stage that I'm going to talk about today. The range low, the range high, everyone's familiar with that. And then a level that I introduced yesterday and we're going to talk about in depth today is this little support area. It's 10.1 or pretty much 10K, right? We broke below it, obviously, but it's been support, and right now it's acting as a bit of resistance now for the past really 24 hours. Now, if we can get above this area, I'm going to talk about why I think that that's actually attractive for more upside, and it would really confirm the idea of Bitcoin getting above here. Right? If Bitcoin gets back above here, draw an arrow, it's a little bit cleaner than my drawings. I still haven't figured out this new mouse. If Bitcoin gets above here, back above this 10,150 area, right, and whether that's just a confirmed candle close, what I'm looking for today is the daily close. If we do get this daily close above here, or we get some kind of retest, right, and we can get back above this area that has been support, right, then all of a sudden, I do think that Bitcoin's ready for a little bit of upside in this range. We've used this range low as support, right? We broke an area that was support, used as resistance, and if we can reclaim it, right, I'm going to be looking for upside for Bitcoin for today, for tomorrow, and for the rest of the week. And I also, on the back end of that, I think it's going to play out so nicely, once again, if we get this, in the sense that, look, all week, it was tough to do because a lot of people are celebrating wins on the alt side. But being patient on these, I think so far it looks like we're avoiding, or I am avoiding, obviously I can't give you advice, but avoiding kind of buying the tail end of an alt rally. An alt rally that lasted 3 or 4 days, just like every other alt rally. I know a lot of people were getting long yesterday and for the past couple of days right at the top of this. Right? So if Bitcoin starts to move up, I do think that alts now kind of start to retrace those moves, and I'm going to get to jump on Bitcoin, I think, right, before it starts to move back to range high. That would be really exciting, kind of seeing all those puzzle pieces come together. If your head's spinning, and I explained that a little bit too quick in the intro, don't worry, I'm going to jump into it and cover it in depth. But the moral of the story, if you tune me out or if you only check out a few minutes of the stream every single day, if you're just looking for a little bit of backdrop, is August and September just have been slow. There's no way around that. There's no setup that I could find every single day that would change that. We've had more period or a longer time period in chop for the past 60 days than we've had for the preceding 7 months or so. Right, let's get into it though. Despite the chop, why today we're inching closer and potentially kind of, I really like how this is forming. Right, so to start the week, very quick review. Range, right, this is my map for the week. This area is a support, right? When we reclaimed this area at the beginning of September, I really want to be long and I'm biased towards long as the range low holds. The only reason I'm biased towards long as the range low holds is because this is the cheapest Bitcoin's been for 2 or 3 months, and outside of 9,800 to 13K, Bitcoin's been ranging. I know sometimes it seems like we've just been in a downtrend, or sometimes it seems like we've just been chopping, but really we've just traded back and forth in a pinball. Now there's also been a smaller range, and the smaller range is what I'm focused on today. So the cheapest Bitcoin's been now for all of September, right, is 9,900. This is our key support. It's the one we tapped last night. That's what I'm going to talk about in a moment. And then we also have the range high, obviously, right? So if I'm focusing my eyes on 2 levels, we're just thinking about September, right? What's the most expensive Bitcoin's been, or an area where you'd expect resistance, and that starts at like 10.7, 10.9. And what's the cheapest Bitcoin's been, or basically, where support makes sense, or the most attractive area to get long, that's going to be 96 to 98. One other level that I'm going to focus on, and I brought this up yesterday, I'm going to cover it right now as well, because it makes sense for the trade today, is this 10K to 10.1 area. And you don't need to understand what all these dots are. Very simply, it just marks where each day opens and also where the weekly and monthly opens, which each kind of play a key role. I give more significance to weekly and monthly opens. In this area, you can see price uses those levels as support or resistance. Right? So on our push down, so just to set the stage this week, on our push down this week, as Bitcoin's gotten lower and lower and lower, the first area where actually some serious buy volume stepped in, you can see this buy volume candle, and also the first nice little pop happened right at 10K or 10.1. Right? That lines up with last month's monthly open. It's no coincidence. It's also the highest volume. Now we have broken through that in the past 24 hours. And as we broke through that, right, so support didn't hold, right, we break through, we come back down, tap the range low, and now it looks like price is pushing right back up into this. So if we can reclaim this area, I'm going to use green and red. I think it just helps my eyes, and I think it'll help yours as well. This support, right, and then once we break it, you can see for the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 4-hour time period. So the past literally the 20 hours, or pretty much 24 hours, counting right now. Right, we've been held below, and we still might be. But the scenario that's exciting to me, especially if this range low was tapped and we're now ready to move up, is Bitcoin is pretty much reset. We hit our major resistance, we moved down, we retested our range low, or our major support, right? The cheapest Bitcoin's been for 3 months, the cheapest it's been for 1 month, the cheapest it's been for 2 months, right? You want to see this area hold. And now that we are getting a little bit of a bounce here, going one smaller time frame than I usually do, right? If price can get back above here, right, and I draw this little loop, but all I mean is if we have a daily close back above this 10,150, that's the level I'm using. If we have a daily close back above this 10,150, right, so if we get a close, the exact same way I'm using kind of the 11K or 10,950 as an understanding of if Bitcoin gets up here, we probably trend higher. This is smaller time frame, right? This is just for the day or for Thursday or for Friday or for the rest of the week. If we get a close above here, end of the day today, I think that would indicate this area that was support, or kind of the first area that Bitcoin actually saw selling pressure on its whole move down this week, actually saw some buying pressure on its whole move down this week, right? It's very clearly flipped to resistance this, for the past 24 hours. But if we get back above this area, right, and can kind of reclaim it, I would be looking for upside. And I also, regardless of whether or not you take a trade, just from an understanding point of view of direction for the next day or bias or whatever it is, right? The range low has been tapped, it's been used. We've been marking, you can think about it like lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, right? If this all of a sudden, this little low right here, once again, it hasn't happened, but this is something, as I send this out, you can watch now for the rest of the day and for tomorrow morning, and for the daily close especially. You can see, I'm going to mark it even more clear. Lower lows, right? As we're kind of just moving down from 10.8, we're selling off, low, 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 right? And then ultimately, we tap the bottom of the range here, right? And now, if this all of a sudden is kind of a little bit of a higher low, and we start to get above here, to me, if looking at kind of keeping in mind also the bigger trend, but for shorter term traders and also now, I think this is maybe one of the first trades. I've been patient. I like this setup though. This has been clearly kind of a short term downtrend all week. Lower highs and lower lows. I think you can see that very clearly. If this marked the low right at the range low, and this is kind of our first little higher low, right? We have low, low, this one being higher, and price can reclaim this area that was support, turned resistance. We get back above here. I start to think that now Thursday, Friday, maybe this short-term trend, make this red, maybe this short-term trend is now ready to kind of flip, and I start thinking now for the rest of the week, right? I'm not just gonna buy and pray or have this view and whatever, right? Get wrecked if you're wrong. But now you can use this level as the kind of invalidation of, let's say Bitcoin use 3 different words here because I know that some people use sometimes the words make more sense. If we close or confirm or reclaim, however you want to think about it, get back above 10,150 today for the daily close, all of a sudden I start thinking that this area that was support turned resistance, we can get back above. Right, so all of a sudden I'm biased towards being long. Whether or not you take a trade, right, I can't give you advice, but I'd be looking to be long here. Where would this idea be wrong that this short-term downtrend has reversed and we're ready to move up? Well, as long as right? As long as this area which we just reclaimed, right? As long as this area that we just reclaimed, this 10.1, not 10K, 10.1K, holds, then I generally want to be long. So you can really see kind of how just one simple level that was previously support turned resistance, and now we've had a short-term downtrend, lower lows, lower highs. This might mark kind of that low. This would be our first higher low. If we reclaim this area, get above here, then as long as price is holding this zone, I'm going to make it blue, even though it's a support, I'm just going to make it blue just to kind of highlight everyone's eyes to it. As long as price is holding above this blue, right, then I imagine we're going to continue to form these higher lows. And you can start to kind of picture what that would look like, right? Higher lows, as long as this area is holding, then I generally want to be long, assuming that price is going to follow a path like this. And where am I targeting, right? I'm targeting this major resistance. My breakout play is still intact, right? So if we do get above here, sure, I think there's more upside. But until then, I have to kind of just be aiming for that next resistance. So today, I think this is pretty exciting. We're potentially marking a low. I think we're kind of watching it play out live. As price gets above here, especially if we have 4-hour or daily closes above this 10.150, I start to think that this short-term downtrend that lasted all week has reversed, that we're starting to form higher lows. As long as price is holding or closing above this 10.1K area, right, this is an area that was support, turned resistance, flipped back to support, and I want to be long. You can also see kind of the risk reward of this, right? Think about 2 days ago why I haven't wanted to take a trade for Bitcoin. It's because we've been right in the middle. So as I look at what's my risk reward, right? Where could I aim if price moves up? Well, this area is resistance. Well, we could drop all the way to range low. That's like 50-50. It's 1-to-1, and I probably don't really have an edge on direction. All of a sudden, though, if I do have a little bit of an edge in direction, meaning we've had lower lows, we've had lower highs, potentially now we have our first higher low and we've reclaimed a support, not only can you start to build a case for it does look like momentum is kind of returned positive and we're closer to the bottom of the range, we're no longer right in the middle, but my risk reward is also starting to get way more attractive in the sense that let's say price moves up, right? And does actually start to form higher lows, and I don't care if it follows that path or this path or whatever it is, right? The lines are just a rough guide. If it does start to move higher and does start to move towards this range high, right, that 4, 5, 6%, and I'm only, giving it, and this isn't just to give it, a high risk reward. I think you see that a lot on Twitter. People will say, look at this 10R trade. It's not anything like that. It's just as long as this area, this pivot, right, support, turned resistance, and if it turns back to support, this blue area, right, we reclaim this, or buyers or demand is strong enough to stay above this, then I want to be long. And you can start to see not only, right, is your risk reward attractive, but I also think there's an edge in direction in thinking that, look, this could be a short-term reversal in the trend. So I like that setup for Bitcoin. If, I still think that the most ideal setup for a lot of swing traders and a lot of investors, I can't say this enough, most people benefit from just playing the longer term swings, from just playing the higher time frame plays. A lot of people are investors anyways and shouldn't be day trading. And so kind of waiting for the area where, it's more likely that we trend works for them. But for people that are more active in some situation that I'm looking at today, or even if you aren't trading it, but you just want to understand now kind of Bitcoin's, my outlook now for the rest of the week, is if we do reclaim this area, I do really like that. And I'm going to be looking for the daily close on that. I know sometimes I use 4-hour. This time I'm using a daily. If we get above 10.150 on the daily, that to me, we've reclaimed this blue area. And as long as we're closing above this blue area, I'm looking to run it up to range high, giving myself that 2 or 3% cushion. Right? I use closes, not a hard stop, and aiming for that range high, right? Looking for that $600-$700 move. It's going to be very similar to the move that we had when we started September. Getting above 9,900, aim for 10.2. Getting above 10.3, aim for 10.7. Right? Both those worked out perfect. And this is really kind of the exact same idea. We've got down to the range low. We could potentially be marking a local bottom, right? And reversing. And this, for me, would confirm that short-term reversal, and I start looking to run it higher, and I'd be wrong here. Could be wrong. That's how I manage risk in the case that I am. I think you can at least understand the thought process there if you don't have a similar view of that's what I'd be looking at for Bitcoin. But still, moral of the story for August, September, it has been slow. And I imagine it'll continue to be slow until we get outside of 10.9 or below 96. This is all chop, but I actually do think there's maybe a setup in the chop today. So I wanted to cover that in depth for Bitcoin. The flip side of this, and it's something that I think a ton of you found helpful yesterday, at least I hope, I only spoke to 2 or 3 of you, is thinking about alts in the macro landscape. I'm not getting caught up in, someone posting their wins on Twitter or just because a few alts were up 10 or 15%. This, I think, how you have to think about alts. They've had these periods of time, and this is true for EOS, this is true for Tron, this is true for Litecoin, this is true for Ripple, ADA, every single one of them. We've had these 3 or 6 or 5, and this week we've had a 4. Right? Day periods where alts get a relief bounce of 10 or 15%. Unless they can clear this area, right? I have to, I want to avoid being on the tail end of a 10 or 15% alt relief bounce, because then I'm literally buying the top in a downtrend. All right, there's 2 ways to make money if you're buying alts in a downtrend. It's either catching the exact bottom, a game that I don't play, right? Because you just end up with bloody hands and every single day you're trying to guess and find the bottom. It's a losing game. Or it's buying once it's confirmed that things can actually go up, right? So a higher time frame reversal. Buying when momentum is actually returned. And for EOS and for Litecoin and for really all the alts, right, the idea that I talked about yesterday and why I'm still waiting for this, it's another thing like the Bitcoin. I know some people are like, man, why does he wait so much? It's just because these bounces that keep happening, right, it looks like I've avoided so far, and I think some of you now have as well, right, buying the top of a 10 or 15% alt rally right into resistance. If we get above here, sure, I would love to get onto EOS or love to get onto Litecoin or love to get onto whatever it is, because then the probability goes up that they actually have reclaimed this support and start moving up. Right? There's so many similarities with the Bitcoin setups and with the altcoin setups each day. It's just like, Bitcoin, if it is able to get back above this blue, I think it's like a lot of altcoins. Right? It would be like a lot of altcoins. Getting back above this previous support turned resistance, that would show me that price is actually, able to get above this resistance. The path of least resistance is probably up, and I avoid buying resistance. A lot of my plays kind of follow that exact same structure of looking for reclaims, looking for pivots. How is price acting at that pivot? Can it reclaim that pivot? Is it showing strength at that level? Right? Things like that. And it's a pendulum. If Bitcoin is able to reclaim this and move higher, I imagine that alts probably retrace all their gains. Now, if Bitcoin can't retrace this today, if I don't get my daily close, right? Let's say I don't get my condition by the end of the day, this doesn't happen. Make it red. This just doesn't happen, and Bitcoin just continues to be really weak in here. Then I imagine EOS and Litecoin, right, which have been at their decision points now for a full 24 hours, maybe these things actually can get above and start to move up. So I think that Bitcoin today, alts were at the decision point yesterday. I think that Bitcoin's action today, whether it closes above, I think presents an opportunity, or if it doesn't, I think it would allow alts to close above. Now they're kind of both at that decision point. Yesterday it was if alts can get above, I think it opens up a theme, but really not a play for Bitcoin. Today I think there could be a play on both. I still need a condition to be met for my play. I don't just fire away trades randomly. But now they're kind of both very close to a decision point. If Bitcoin, if it gets that daily close above 10,150, I start to think that there is upside. This is a short-term reversal of the downtrend we've had all week, rolling below here. And if that doesn't happen, then potentially alts, which you're seeing now their first down day in a while, right? For EOS, for Litecoin, for all these, which just couldn't get a daily close above their previous resistance, right? Avoiding kind of buying the top of an alt rally. My gosh, that feels good. It maybe feels better than catching the 10 or 15%. Right? Avoiding the blood. And if that's the case, right, if Bitcoin does start to move up, I imagine that these things really do retrace. I'm agnostic, right? I would be fine with either. I'd be fine with Bitcoin play working out and alts just moving back to lows, or this is still on the table for the rest of the week. And it's something that I still think that if you're looking at alts or looking for a setup on alts, right, I don't give signals, but I do think that this strategy will help you. It's going to be clear. It's going to be kind of easy to see now if alts do close above, my gosh, where's my check mark? If alts do, Litecoin or EOS or any of those, if they do close above that level, I think that's a clear sign that they're ready for more upside. Until then, I can't buy them at resistance, and today is illustrating why very clearly. So kind of 2 weeks in a row, when the markets are slow, I really like to use daily and 4-hour close strategies. And it's because you avoid situations like we had for Bitcoin at the end of last week. You avoid buying resistance. Today, it turns out that you avoid buying alt resistance. And when the market's slow, it's why I started the video like this. It's like, gosh, when things are slow, I really want my strategies to avoid getting me in bad situations. If the conditions already aren't optimal, well, I probably want to really avoid kind of the shittiest or the worst opportunities, right? Because when they do return, I just want a strategy that, or a rule set or whatever it is, that does hint to me that, the situation or conditions or whatever it is are ideal for me to enter again, or that the market's ready to trend again. For Bitcoin, I think it's reclaiming, and for alts, it's the exact same thing. It's just reclaiming a slightly different level. That's why if you're wondering this week and you're saying, man, he's always waiting for a 4-hour and daily close and we just haven't got it. It's by design. It's choppy market conditions. I want my strategy, if anything, to avoid more situations that are bad than to just put me into something that's 50-50 every single time. And that's how I'm seeing things, guys. Hopefully that helps out. Man, August and September have been slow, but if I'm going to play a slow game like this and be selective, I want a strategy that's going to at least have me avoiding the losses, avoiding and mitigating that risk of buying these. Right? If it's been slow and we're losing a trade every single day, then you really have to revise and say, what am I doing? Should I be trading in this condition? If it's been slow and you're avoiding kind of the exact opportunities you don't want to get caught in, that's awesome. Right? If you don't get chopped up and you have a system that lets you join the trend when it resumes, when the trend resumes, you should be doing pretty well. Right? That's the thought process for Bitcoin today. Hopefully everyone has a marvelous Wednesday. I know this one's coming out slightly late. I've caught up on some sleep today, much needed, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning for Thursday. Some absolutely epic conversations planned later this week with Travis Kling of Ikigai Fund. I would say probably one of the sharpest hedge funds in the entire space. I'm going to try to open up a way that I can get questions from you guys, or like get your input if you want anything answered in terms of what some of the top funds are looking at, things like that. Obviously they can't share everything publicly, but you'd be surprised with how much they can give me. And then also Binance US, I can confirm that interview is happening, so I'm not sure I'll be able to share anything that isn't public ahead of time, right? But I will. The first cut I have of that interview, speaking with the CEO of Binance US, I'm going to pass along everything that I know. Once again, I'm going to respect them. I can't share anything that's not public. I don't think they would share anything with me that's not public, but I will be passing along everything that you need to know if you are a US trader or US investor and wondering how that's going to work with Binance. Right, so 2 epic conversations lined up this week. Also, 2 setups, I think, for both alt and for Bitcoin, with a system that's helped avoid the worst situations, right? It's avoiding EOS, it's avoiding Litecoin top, it's avoiding the Bitcoin top last week. I know things are slow, but when they do resume, when we do have a condition hit, that's when I'm excited to get active again, right? Have a good Wednesday, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Take care, be well, move slow. Peace.